Relax.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, Cemetery Commissioners meeting of June 5th, June 3rd, 2019. First order of business, rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Go slow, go slow.
Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone had a outstanding Memorial Day. The weather was shining bright sun. The parade was well attended, one of the biggest crowds in a lot of years, and we certainly send out our thanks to the public that lined the parade route, and we also send out our congratulations to the Webster Dudley Veterans Council for organizing another well-attended event, a somber event, but well-attended. First up on order of business, to welcome our new town administrator, a person who probably needs no introduction to those of you that have been following along the last dozen years or so, but we welcome Jonathan Ruda as our new town administrator, taking the place of the retirement of Greg Valuconis. On behalf of the board and myself especially, I welcome Jonathan. It was a pleasure to serve with him. I think Jonathan is going to transition well into his new role, and I think if people give Jonathan a chance and they play everything fairly, we're going to have a good town administrator. So with no further ado, I'll turn over to Jonathan, let him have a few comments, and the board members can make their comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was able to put together a town administrator's report my first day, so we'll cover the particulars later.
Excellent.
But I appreciate your welcome and we're ready to get to work.
Excellent. Mr. Massey.
Well, Mr. Rudo, happy you're here at day one. You know, there are lots to do. Looking forward to working with you in a different role.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to caution
Mr.
people,
Joseph.
not Jonathan, but caution people to be patient. This is not an easy job. It's a very complex job. There are so many subtle nuances that Jonathan and any town administrator has to know. It's going to take time.
Take that one out of order.
Be patient. Give him the opportunity. Let him learn, and we'll all be better off.
Mr. Siganovich.
I find myself echoing Mr. Joseph's statement. Good luck. Look forward to working with you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Bose.
Glad to have you back.
You look way better tonight than I do, please.
Thank you.
That's it?
Love to hear.
Sorry.
First up on the agenda, acceptance of minutes of May 15, 2019, which was an open meeting. Members in attendance, myself, Mr. Siganovich, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Massey participated remotely. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of the special meeting of May 15th, 2019 as written.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Joseph. Any questions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, executive session minutes, May 15, 2019. Is this, Mr. Administrator, is this okay to approve and release? I believe the issue was solved as
Yes,
May 31st.
you can release them at those minutes.
Everybody good with that?
So this is to be approved.
And released. It's effective May 31st, and today's the 3rd. Mr. Chief.
If that was a personnel issue, I would just recommend not to release them until at least the next meeting. There was some time frame, it's like a 7-day time frame that was attached to that, one of those agreements, so just to make sure everything moves past, it's a lot of time.
All right, I'm going to, on police chief's recommendation and the board's pleasure, we will postpone accepting these minutes till at least our next meeting.
I wouldn't make that commitment. I would ask that the motion be to approve but not release at this time, rather than to say next week, or next meeting.
What's the board's pleasure?
You move? Was that a motion, Paul?
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion? Mr. Sigenovich?
Could we just table it till next meeting, maybe? That way we're not accepting it, we're not releasing it, we're just kind of putting it in like the on-deck circle.
We
Just a thought.
could do that. The motion, though, is to approve the minutes because they are accurate, but not to release, which is in essence the same as tabling it. But when you table something, it automatically has to be on the agenda for the next meeting. And if that's what the board wants,
Oh, just,
okay, either way,
we don't need a date.
we don't.
Okay, I'm good with that then.
So the motion, Michelle, is to approve as presented but not released, not to be released. Everybody good with that? Call to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Mr. Massey,
I wasn't there on
Oh,
something like
sorry.
that. Can I,
301,
yeah, I abstain. I wasn't there, yeah.
301.
But I agree with it. Note that I agreed with what we did.
Next up are the minutes of May 20th, 2019, which were the meeting we had held before the town meeting. What is the board's pleasure?
I move to accept, to approve.
Motion made to accept and approve.
Second?
Just for discussion purposes, because that meeting was not well attended, we had a couple resignations. Brian Canty from the ZBA. The resignation was accepted with regret. Anybody that knows Brian, he's given a lot of time to the town, very passionate advocate. He will be missed, and the board motioned to send a letter thanking him for his service. Second one was Gregory Benoit from the planning board. Again, motion to approve with regret, resignation of Gregory Benoit. Same outcome, the board would send him a letter thanking him for his service. All in favor of the motion to accept the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Chief, before we go to number 3, with the board's pleasure, we just take number 4 out of order. Resignation, Don Wilson from the Capital Improvement Committee. He was a moderator, approved appointment.
Also the FAA.
Moderator approved resignation also from the FAA. Just looking to see if we have a letter. It's been an honor and privilege to serve on the Finance Appropriation Advisory Committee for the past 2 years, but with regret, I must resign effective June 30, 2019. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to serve, and I treasure the experience I now have due to this wonderful opportunity. It's been a pleasure serving with Mike Mayotte, the chairman, the town treasurer, and town administrator. Motion to accept with regret.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Massey.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Sigenovich. Mr. Massey.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Don. He's been a stalwart at a lot of the meetings and really getting involved in all those different capacities in FAA and capital improvement and really paying attention. So I just really want to thank Don for all the work he did, and I think this is it now for him to, as far as serving. So if we could send him a nice letter from the board, that would be outstanding, Mr. Chairman.
A motion to accept with regret and sending a letter thanking him on his behalf. Any further comments? I'd like to add, I met Don through his service with the town. He's, as John said, he was a very staunch supporter, good advocate for the town, passionate, and gave a lot of time. He'll be missed.
It's with the sadness, understanding for sadness. He's so devoted to the town. He worked through a lot of pain. He never said no, and we are grateful for him having provided the time, the energy, and the service to the town. So I guess if I could capitalize regret, I would.
Well said, Paul.
Yep. So the motion is made and seconded. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. No, just, yeah.
Call him up once, I figured.
At this point, we're under 3A, appointments. We'll bring up the police chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 issues before you. The first one, I think, on the agenda is to appoint Louis Pacheco from our reserve force as a student officer effective upon the commencement of the police academy. Louis has been a part-time officer for us for well over a year. He's done a very good job with us. As you know, we have a vacancy as of May 31st, and so the plan is to have Louis assume the full-time position once he completes the police academy. So in order to do this, it's necessary for the board to approve a motion to appoint him as a student officer upon entrance into the academy. What will happen, as with all the others, is he can work until the time the academy starts, which will help us a great deal with our staffing at this point. And then once he's nearing completion of the academy, I'll come back before the board for a full appointment as a full-time police officer, and that will be effective upon his graduation. So, yeah, Louis has done a great job for us in his time that he's been with us. I think I have no hesitation to say he'll do a very good job for us here in the town. And so I would just ask you to approve him as a student officer upon entrance into the police academy, and I'll keep the board posted from there.
Before I call a motion, we'll ask the candidate to say a few words about himself, if you'd like.
My name's Luis Pacheco. I live in Millbrae, Mass. I met a great group of guys here working with them. I learned something new every day, to be honest with you. It's a great honor to have this opportunity come my way. Starting off into law enforcement wasn't an easy deal to get into. And the guys have helped me basically come to where I am right now.
How long you been on the reserve force?
A little over a year.
Nice. Board members?
Do we know his educational background?
You can ask if you like.
Sure.
Impress us.
So I went to Millbrae High School, then I went to Universal Technical Institute, which is an automotive college. I graduated there in a year and a half. I worked at a car dealership for about 5 years, roughly, and then I graduated the Reserve Academy, and then I came here.
Well, we realize he's not really traveling that far, because at Millbrae he was a woolly, and here he'll become a ram, which is much more dignified than just a woolly. So you'll be welcome.
Maybe he can borrow Bailey's outfit when he's done with it.
I don't know what he is.
It's for indoctrination purposes.
It might be, it could be a little long. Bailey's a tall drink of water.
And he's slept in that thing since this weekend.
Oh, boy.
No one did it.
He's got all the pockets for his scholarships that he won.
Right?
Mr. Siganevich?
Officer Pacheco, I've run into you a couple times, Strawberry Festival, details, whatever. Just like now, you've always got your eyes open, smile on your face. And the chief had some good things to say about you. Good to have you aboard.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Massey?
Yeah, no, glad to hear that you're almost there, make your full time when the time comes, and I look forward to being here for that. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Joseph?
I'm going to move that we appoint Louis Pacheco as a full-time police officer, conditional upon his completion of the police academy.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, if you want to make it as a student officer upon the start of the police academy, and then I'll come back to you with a formal appointment of
I'm
full-time
fine
during
with
that.
that.
Yeah, just so that'll work good, just so we can get them secured and everything in the academy, so,
Okay.
So change the motion to refer to him as a student officer.
yes.
Yep.
Upon the commencement of the police academy, yes.
As a student officer.
Still second.
Motion made in second. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Welcome, good luck.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome aboard. Gentlemen, you going to greet him? Hey, Steve.
Where are you going?
Not so fast. Screw up on your first day, for God's sake, my gosh.
Welcome aboard.
Good to have you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Get your picture as a resource. I want you to do that.
Oh, you can do a picture?
Nope.
Hold
Come
on.
use this thing, come stand
Didn't
in.
know.
I'll take one.
All right, well, where you want to go?
Wait, let me get on the other side.
Oh, yeah, chief. Hey, wow, you're pretty quick when you want
I
to.
can hide my arm behind you.
You can.
Lou, is that your family? They want to come up for a picture? Or?
You two in back, did you get the
You
pictures
guys
you
want to get a
wanted?
picture?
You guys want, your family
You
want to come
guys
up?
get the pictures you wanted?
Michelle,
Oh, they're coming up for picture.
that's his family.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I should bring my phone in.
Oh, come in the front.
Right in front here.
Want to introduce?
My mom, Cheryl.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Cheryl, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Go to work after this.
Nice to meet you.
Need a note because you're going to be late or anything? You all set?
Congratulations.
Mr. Joseph
Punch
write
in.
you one.
Okay. Punch
Yeah.
in.
Oh, Willie.
Just a pound on those guys. I went to Oxford. Windowfield.
And then plans.
Right.
Still barely has dirt.
Good kid.
He is a good kid.
Yeah. I met him at Strawberry
He
Festival.
doesn't
You're
have
right.
that 1,000-yard stare, you know what I
No,
mean?
give him some time. These guys will take care of him.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Oh, yeah. They will.
Hope that didn't go over. Chief, next up on the agenda, 3B. Sergeant position vacancy effective July 1st, 2019. You'd like to fill it with?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what we've done was, I had candidates from the department again apply for the position. Had 3 individuals enter their names in. They'd be Officer James Anise, Officer Chandler Boyd, and Officer Merrick Kolowitz. I brought in an outside panel of police chiefs to help me do a review process of these officers. That was held last week. And based upon their review and their recommendation, which I forwarded to your board, they recommended the list of Officer Kolowitz as number 1, Officer Anise as number 2, and Officer Boyd as number 3. So I wholeheartedly endorse their application as far as recommending Officer Kolowitz to assume a position of sergeant with the department effective July 1st of this year.
Chief, before we take a motion, you want to bring Officer Kolowitz up for a moment, or?
Certainly.
Officer Kolowitz, good to see you again.
Thank you.
Like to say a few words pending, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I lived in Dudley most of my life. I've been with Dudley Police for 19 years, 17 of that full-time. I'm planning on retiring in Dudley, and I thank the opportunity for this position.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Joseph?
It's about time. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Gary?
I'm going to say the same thing I said about Officer Pacheco. Every time I've seen you, just like now, you've got a grit on your face, you're just, I mean, it's kind of, I think it's kind of what we want here in Dudley. We want good, happy people.
Thank you.
And it's great to have you. Really,
Thank
it
you.
is.
Well, I've known Merrick longer than he's been a police officer, and proud to call him my friend. You know what they say, town employees stay forever, the selectmen come and go. So with this promotion, I think we're making a good move for the department, a good move forward. I certainly agree with the chief wholeheartedly, and I know he'll do a fine job and he'll make Dudley proud. Mr. Massey?
I will echo what my colleague said. Merrick, you have earned this, you deserve it, and it is about time. It is absolutely about time. And that's why, Mr. Chairman, I am very, very proud to make a motion to appoint you to be our new sergeant effective July 1st, 2019.
I'd like to second that.
I'll third it.
Fourth.
No need to take a vote, Michelle, it's unanimous. Welcome,
Oh,
Sergeant.
you got to form and take a vote.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Pictures?
Sure. About time. Congratulations.
Good to have you.
We're going to do a picture?
Surface. Yeah, chief, come picture, yeah.
John, you gotta get in.
John, get in there. Town administrator, new sergeant, right? Wait.
All right,
Nice job, man. Thanks again, man.
appreciate it. Chief, you want to do D while you're up there?
Yeah,
Just take it out of order. With the board's pleasure, I'm going to allow the chief to take D out of order.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to...
Hey, I'll just
Whoa,
say,
whoa,
I'll
excuse me,
just
one
say that,
second.
Mr. Chairman,
Chief,
thank you very much.
Chief,
1 second.
Yep. I
This
just say
moment-
thank you very much for the vote you just took. This was a very difficult process because all 3 individuals have really done a good job. And I think when I brought the chiefs in from the outside, they had a very tough choice, just like I did. But we're confident in any of them. This list usually stays alive for about 2 years, so if there's any other changes and things, we can take this back up and reconsider it. But, yeah, I think Merrick has done a fine job, and he'll do an excellent job for us. But really, we're just very fortunate to have some very good officers in the department that would
Chief, before we jump to D, we kind of glossed over the opening. And with the board's pleasure, I'd just like to announce that the vacancy was created by Sergeant Hutchinson's retirement, May 31st, 2019. With the board's pleasure, I'd like to thank Sergeant Hutchinson for his service to the town, obviously with regrets, and we'll have a letter, something from the town sent. Town administrator can sign, or I can on the town's behalf. Maybe we can bring him in at some point and recognize him for his service. Hutchinson, Sergeant Hutchinson. Sergeant Hutchinson.
Okay.
D.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So, our reserve force has kind of been, I guess not decimated, but it's been worn out over the last few years. We've had several appointments, had other people that have left, and so we're trying to rebuild that list. So we were able to hold an exam 2 weeks ago, and we're in the process of being able to hire some new reserve officers. So what I'm asking the board to do is, as part of our rules and regulations, ask the board to declare up to 10 reserve police officer openings in the department and activate the police evaluation committee. Basically what this does at that point is just enables us to go forward with the process. I don't intend on hiring 10 people right away, but we probably would do this over a year or so. Maybe we'll do them in blocks of 3 or 4 and kind of work them through so we can get them trained and get them up and running. But we'd like to start doing interviews as soon as possible and get these candidates up and running. So the first step in the process is to have the board declare up to 10 openings on the reserve force and then activate the police evaluation committee.
Chief, does the evaluating committee fully staffed? I know we had some turnover the last couple of years. People been reappointed to those?
They are
appointed?
staffed, yeah, that committee is appointed by the moderator, and it is full at this point, and I've been in contact with all the members that were on it as of the beginning of last year, and they're all still interested in serving, so, and I believe all their terms are still active.
Michelle, can you get us those names? There's been people that left in the last, you know who they are offhand, the 5 names?
Let's see, retired Sergeant Brule is one, Dennis Pfeiffer is another one, Joe Coggins is one, Steve Ketchaputi is another, and I drew the blank, but there is one more in there, yes.
Did you say Pfeiffer?
Yes,
Dennis?
Dennis Pfeiffer,
Dennis,
yes.
oh, I was thinking Richie from Webster. Come on,
But yeah,
Tom.
there's 5 that are on there.
Okay. Mr.
So,
Joseph?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that the board declare 10 reserve officer openings and instruct the chief to activate the police evaluating committee.
Second.
Second by Mr. Marcy. Any further questions? Mr. Administrator, you good with that?
I'm good with that.
Obviously, he's not on the committee, but he'll be in the loop. Yep,
Yeah, we spoke about it today, Mr.
okay.
Fifth member is Keith Kaparowski. There we go, that's the fifth member.
Good.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
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 Unanimous.
Nice
Thank you
job.
very much.
Nice job, Chief, getting all that.
Could we ask that the recording of the vote on this issue was 3 in favor, none opposed, and 1 recused himself, Selectman Siganevich.
Thank you.
Bailey, you want to go get him? Is he outside? You mind?
I think he's gone.
Oh, he's gone? He's not coming back? Oh, okay. Thank you anyway. Back to the regular agenda, 3C. Cultural Commission, Patty Thompson Byron, term to expire June 30th, 2022.
And we have a letter from her.
Yeah, she's not present, but I'll read the letter. I'd like to become a member of the Dudley Cultural Council. I have deep roots in this town, as well as being a teacher in Dudley for many years. It would be an honor to be a member of the group devoted to enriching Dudley's cultural landscape. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Patricia Thompson Byron. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Patricia Thompson Byron to the Cultural Council with a term to expire June 30th, 2022.
Motion made.
Second.
Second, I just want to state, several of my children had Mrs. Byron as a teacher, And I think if, obviously she'll bring the passion to Dudley Cultural, that board will be a better board for her participation.
I want to add, not to the motion, but to the discussion, that we are grateful that someone with her background has volunteered to be on the Cultural Commission.
Absolutely. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Zoning Board of Appeals. We have a letter from George Slingo, the chairman, asking the Dudley Board of Appeals would like to ask for consideration appointing Wesley Pettit as a full-time member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, filling the vacancy of Brian Canty. Wesley knows the zoning bylaws of the town as well as the history behind many of the cases that come before our board. His input is extremely valuable to the board during his prior tenure as an alternate. Therefore, we ask serious consideration for his appointment to the ZBA as a full-time member. What's the board's pleasure? Mr. Marcy.
Mr. Chairman, I think Wes has served on, as an alternate on ZBA. I think they need some help on that board, so if he's coming forward, then I move to appoint Wes Pettit to serve as a full-time member, replacing Brian Canty, with the term to expire June 30th, 2023.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. I'd like to add, too, I've known Wes a long time. He was my neighbor several years back for a long time. He's a local business owner in town. As John stated in the letter states, former member. We certainly thank him for stepping up with big shoes to fill. You don't count. Motion made and seconded. All in favor, state aye.
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 Unanimous.
Thank you,
Michelle,
Wes.
Mr. Marcy would like to point out to the zoning board chairman that we have 5 members, 4 members on our board, and
It's got 2 Paul Josephs. and one's
he's
enough,
disappointed that Paul gets named twice. He don't get named once, so.
right? I'm setting up a joke. 2 Pauls, right?
Oh,
So tell Mr. Marcy,
He's got me.
begrudgingly acts on the board of ZBA's chairman's request.
It's fine.
Next up, public comments, citizens' comments, informational. Anybody wishing to speak that's not on the agenda tonight, please come forward. Hearing none. Oh, come on, Marsh, sorry. 10 seconds.
Marcia Wagner, Hickory Drive.
Good evening,
I don't know if this is the proper time in the meeting to talk about the solar thing. I know that there is something on the agenda regarding the Dudley Solar LLC. Do you want to wait for that, or do you want me to speak now?
Well, what are you looking to address? The Dudley Solar thing is a separate agenda item on a pilot
Right.
agreement that we have.
Will you have comment for that? Should I wait till then, or shall I give my comments now?
Well, I think,
Well, are the comments about the pilot agreement, or is it about solar in general?
Solar and the pilot agreement.
If it's about the pilot agreement, I'd rather wait till that comes up, but if it's a solar in general,
Okay, you can tell me to shut up if you need to.
I would never say that, you know that. I'd say, Fred, turn her off, but no, I'm just kidding.
I was not in town for the town meeting or the planning board open hearing on the solar petition. I watched the open hearing on TV. I don't think the town meeting's online yet, so I'm referring to the Webster Times for my questions. And one of my first questions is, the one on West Dudley Road, is that in operation? We had a pilot program. Are we receiving revenue from that?
Jill,
We are, okay. Last year, Mr. Marcy agreed to my request that we show the revenue on our budget so townspeople vote on it, and they want to see, the results of their votes, but it's not on this budget, so I just wondered what that.
it wasn't listed on the revenue page?
No.
Yes.
It's under,
It's under,
It's under revenue,
But
it's a
the same
source of
one-
revenue.
it's source of revenue.
it's the
yeah.
same one where they listed the dump, the question about,
It's grouped in with other.
Yeah, and we said we were going to identify them separately so we can see
Yeah,
how much revenue we're getting from
yep,
them.
no, I agree, and that we should do that going forward, Mr. Town
can
Administrator.
I get a clarification?
Mr. Joseph.
She wants to receive revenue by revenue from solar projects.
Each one individually?
No, it's total.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, individually
No,
would be
See, I'm
helpful.
not in favor of doing it individually. And I'll tell you why. We don't record all the individual people who pay fees for dogs. We don't record all of the vendors who pay money to the town. I have absolutely no problem and agree with you, Marcia, 100%, that the total for the solar pilot agreements ought to be listed in writing. And then at the meeting, if someone has a question about a particular one, it ought to be allowed and asked and answered at the town meetings. Absolutely.
Okay, fair enough.
I
So
think
my-
total will work, Marcia.
Sorry?
I think total will work.
Okay. Well, but like I said, we didn't see it this time, and we
Yeah,
didn't.
I mean, it got called out, but they already had their template
So,
in place.
Mr. Chairman, what would be the purpose of putting each different solar project, breaking it down? Is it something I can help you with in advance of that? Advance of the town meeting or something? Because,
Well,
mean-
I think the public would want to see that too. The voters should see that too. So
right,
you
and I,
decide how you,
yeah,
Why
I
not just-
absolutely agree. We could definitely do source of revenue from solar projects, and if somebody wants something more specific, I'll make sure that we have it at the town meeting, or I can give you something in advance if you
okay.
want to speak on it.
I'm leaning towards Mr. Joseph. I would prefer we don't break it down on the budget.
No.
I would ask the administrator and maybe Michelle to reach out to the community, see if they break it down individually.
No, total.
Right, but I'm saying if they want
Right,
to see it
total.
as part of the budget process. But,
Yeah.
But the information ought to be brought to the meeting
well, the pilot,
so that questions can be answered if there are any.
pilot agreements are public documents, and anybody can come into the town,
Absolutely.
which
Right.
would be my preference, would have somebody come into town and actually see either Rich or Lisa or the town administrator and get the actual figure, or call or email and have it sent, because I
The
don't want to,
information is not hidden, you're right.
I don't want to go down the road where person A said, I talked to treasurer, and he said this, and I don't think that's true, and then person C comes up with, he said C, I mean, I'd like to see people actively participate in their government and actually walk in and say, what's the money, can you show me the figures, as opposed to getting up at a town meeting and saying, the selectmen are lying tonight,
Yeah, that information ought to be available to everyone at any time,
which it is,
but not listed individually on the source of money.
right?
Yeah. Nobody's,
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, the board would like the revenues generated from solar projects broken
Oh.
down?
as its own line item.
Total, okay.
Aggregate.
I've been asking for that for,
But on the budget process, I don't think, I'm leaning towards Paul, because like he said, for example, we don't break down $60,000 in building permits and say, person A put a deck on for 400, person B put an addition on for 1,200, we don't do it that way, and that's all right, and we don't do excise tax, they don't say, my car's worth this much and your car's worth that much. Why would we single out one source of revenue?
Yeah, I mean, as long as the information is publicly available and can be responded to that night, then any questions can be answered.
Read in the back.
And Marcia agreed.
You need to come up.
Come on
You
up,
can't-
Gail.
Thank you.
Oh, there's three microphones, Gil, come on up.
There's 3 seats. Sometimes you have 4, sometimes you have 5, sometimes you have nobody.
I disagreed with Mr. Joseph in the fact that, everybody knows, we have dogs and they're not listed. Well, we know the price for the dogs. It doesn't have to be listed, individually. I don't know what each of these
Pilots.
solar complexes, because they're not a solar farm. I don't know what they each bring in. And if this solar complex is on 3 acres, what is that bringing in? And if this is on 10 acres, what is that bringing in?
See the good?
I think the solar is a hot topic in Dudley right now, and I think if more information were available at meetings and so forth, that we can address it, especially when it's on the minutes, that would be helpful to the townspeople to know.
Well, the good thing is, we don't go by acreage, it goes by we don't go by acreage, it goes by kilowatts
Generated, yeah.
Okay?
And a better one is, we have a public hearing before, we have at least one public hearing before we approve any pilot agreement. It's an open session, on camera, like tonight, anybody can come, anybody can watch, anybody can, with questions, and when the result is done and voted, it becomes public record, and as I said before, you get the information from the administrator or the treasurer. So it's all about generation, it's not about size.
Okay?
And you know, you're right, you are right, all the dog fees are identical. However, building permits vary by the work being requested and approved.
But I think that's a separate issue.
Let me finish, please.
Ooh, don't get
No,
tight with me.
No, I'm just saying, let me finish, all right? The analogy of the building fees is better than the dog fees. That was not a good analogy on my part. I'm puzzled as to why or what the information is going to produce in terms of listing it individually at the town meeting. I don't understand.
Because if it's on the list that it's going to be discussed and I ask a question, the information won't be here. So I have to go during the day on my own time, get the information and bring it to the meeting. And that's what you want me to do, right?
No, you should not have to do that. The town administrator has said that he will bring the information as to what each pilot program generates or has generated in the previous fiscal year
To each meeting,
to the town meeting.
right? To each town meeting,
Yeah, we have two.
right?
And those ought to be there, and you're right, okay? So I'm not sure what the purpose of listing them individually is when we don't do that for other variable fees. Not the dog fees, that was the bad on my part.
But this is a hot topic in Dudley. And when I see what I've seen go on in this town with the placement of these, I want to know, am I getting enough money for looking at that eyesore every time I drive down this street? Is this town getting enough money every time I look at that eyesore driving down that street?
Okay, let me.
And that's what that's why I want
That's fair.
individual, because that's gonna give me an idea. If there's something up in the back, well, I'm not seeing it, that means I have to go searching, and I get that. But when I see an eyesore and I don't agree with it, and I wanna know, for me to have to look at this, for this town to have to deal with this, why is it, what is it bringing to this town? And how is it helping us to look at that as ugly as it is? And I want to know, all right, what's the revenue on this versus the revenue on that? I just want to make these determinations rather than this lump sum.
Well, the good thing is you can contact, as of tomorrow, open business, you can call, you don't have to come down, you can call.
I'm going to.
Correct. And then, and this is no reflection on pro solar, con solar, you use the
No,
term,
I just want the information.
you use
If I
the,
can get the information, I'm fine.
use the term eyesore. We had people at the town meeting get up and they have a different take on it. They look at it as clean energy.
Well, that's true too, but I'm talking now.
That's right.
They're not. So I call it an eyesore here or an eyesore there.
In the second part that I wanted to come up at the town meeting, and we had plenty of time, it didn't come up. All of those solar farms were permitted through the town's process. No,
Take exception to the word
I wasn't done
farm.
talking yet, but that's okay.
Right.
I didn't interrupt you. Those were all permitted through the town, through the appropriate town boards, and they were cited within the bylaws of the town, some had ZBA approval. And if I call it a farm, you can call it an eyesore. I call this building an eyesore. I thought they should have knocked it down and built a brand-new one. I lost the vote back then. I think everyone's entitled to their opinion. I certainly respect it.
Right. But because I said it wasn't a farm, you choose to call it a farm.
I did not,
think that's-
it wasn't a quid pro quo. I wasn't saying it because you said it. It's a term that,
that-
they've been around for at least a decade or probably more, and I've always heard, I've never, ever heard it referred to as a factory or a manufacturing process until Ramshorn last year on the special permit. Everyone loves to Google. I can Google solar farm, it's gonna come up. If I Google solar factory, I don't think it's gonna come up. Or solar eyesore, that might come up as a term, but
If I may, one of the things that you said, and I'm trying to decipher it, was that if I look at this piece, this solar array or that solar array, And I think it's ugly where it is in location, and I know people have that opinion. Especially the one at Shepherd Hill, absolutely. And you said, I want to know if we're getting enough money for that. And here's the problem. I don't think that's the question you want to ask, because how much is enough money? Who determines that? You can't determine, are we getting enough? You can determine how much are we getting, absolutely positively, and that question ought to be asked freely at any time. But what you may consider enough, others may consider too little, others may consider too much, and that's not a measurement that we want to go by.
Hey, 1 second, Gail. When this came up last year, I think it was after Marcia came in, Greg did give at least one presentation where he stated every solar farm, what they had generated through pilot agreements. So it wasn't like we never responded to a request. It maybe didn't make the town meeting warrant when it came towards the budget, but Greg, anytime we asked him, Greg brought forward the information on all pilot agreements and everything that was generated.
I did remind, but the template didn't happen, so we should.
Yeah.
I was unable to make this past town meeting, but I made the town meeting in the fall, and I asked, what do these bring in? And nobody could give me an answer on the board, and I was told, well, we'll look into it, and that's it. So now I'm asking again.
That's not a good answer, yeah.
Well, that's what I got. So now I'm asking again, and
Paraphrase.
that's it.
Well, to be fair, Gail, I mean, we didn't know you were coming in to ask that. If we'd known you were asked, we would have had numbers for you.
Right,
To be fair.
but I asked before,
Right,
and,
you're right.
Nothing's been done,
That fell
so-
through the cracks.
and like I say, this is a hot topic.
It is.
It's a hot topic in town. The information should be out there. I shouldn't have to dig to get it, but I will be,
The
as
good
soon as
thing,
I can get to the town hall, I will be
the
there
good
and
thing,
I will get it.
one sec, Paul. The good thing, it's an easy dig. You don't have to even come. You can call or email, and I'm sure the appropriate person will get back to you with the figures. I mean, if you like to come, it'd be great. I think it's great when people, I say it all the time, we had 58 people at our last town meeting. I applaud all 58. Most of them are here that are present. But those 58, us 58 that were there, and some people here were there, determined the budget for the whole year, determined the school budget for the whole year, determined solar farms, which you said is a hot button, determined the outcome of a DPW study committee, determined language on how we can house and kennel dogs in town. I could go through the whole warrant, and I applaud and I thank the 58 people that came.
Right.
But the town of Dudley has approximately 6,600 registered voters. And not everybody can make it, I understand that. Just look at the last election, we had 301. But it's frustrating to us, citizens, other boards, when we have public hearings, we advertise them like we're supposed to. The fire chief is gracious, we put him on his board, we put him out front, social media. And we had a DPW study, we paid $20,000 of our money, everybody here who lives in town, as an outcome that the committee, despite one person's misrecollection, determined. We had 2 public hearings that took probably an hour each. We had a presentation and the only 2 people.
Thorough.
There were two water sewer commissioners here, and at the second one, there was 1 water sewer commissioner, the fire and EMS director, and a former Board of Health member, I think was here. That was it. And then we go to a meeting that denigrated into, and it wasn't you folks, it's not, of name-calling and accusations, when I think everybody at the end of the day wants to do what's right for the town. So I'm glad everybody's here. This is a pretty good turnout, and there's 18 people.
But a point, I don't like that you're indicating that I didn't show up, so it's my fault.
Not
And
you.
by listing that these people came and 58 people
didn't hear that.
decided
I didn't
everything.
hear that at
I
all.
was unable to come.
I said,
So,
I wasn't directed at you,
I'm-
Gail.
Mea culpa, I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't-
I couldn't come.
I'll
But I'm
state,
asking the questions now.
I'll state it again, it wasn't directed at you, because if I had it directed at 6,500, whatever, it's gonna take me all night. You weren't the only one, it wasn't, I just happened to, those ladies behind you were there, that's all. Wasn't directed at you.
Can I?
Yep,
Thanks.
no problem.
One of the things that I learned before I became a selectman 15 years ago was when you're making tough decisions, you've got to learn not to take anything personally. So when people say to me after a meeting, I don't agree with what you said, like you did, I don't take it personally, all right? If you do that, it'll eat you up in any situation, personal relationship, politics, or anything else. So please don't take what Sully said as being directed to you. It was not intended, I'm sure, to be personal.
But I wanted to
But
know.
let me finish. God, my good heavens.
I just wanted him to know how I felt, period.
You gotta.
I don't need
you
any
gotta
more
learn-
lectures.
You got,
That's what I feel I'm being lectured.
well, you know what? You gotta change your attitude.
No,
I'm not.
No, I don't.
I'm not lecturing you, all right? I'm not trying to deal with your stubbornness. What I'm trying to do is.
don't call it. I'm done. I'm stepping away.
Okay, but to solve the issue, let me come up with a remedy that you were not able to come up with or suggest. Is there any reason why the amount of money generated in a fiscal year by each of the pilot agreements cannot be placed on the town website?
No, I can't think of any reason why, Mr. Jones.
There's your answer. You know, that way not you or anybody else that wants to get the information, you don't have to come in. It ought to be there 24/7, 365.
Much better answer.
Okay?
Much better answer.
I didn't think of it until during the conversation.
Marcia,
Right on the,
back on point.
Hi, Martha.
right above town.
How many pilot programs for solar installations do we have right now?
Jonathan, how many, you know, offhand?
Yeah, it's three, I think.
Three.
Three?
Great, okay, compared to dog licenses and building permits, we're talking 3. We can put that on the budget. I don't see why we can't separate 3 pilots on the budget. That's not a big deal.
And hopefully a fourth, the landfill.
So anyway, and something sparked what you said about the attendance at the town meetings. I wrote this down. A lifelong resident and a public servant in our town who is still currently a public servant, and when you hear what I say, you'll know who that person is, said publicly that the town is run by those who show up. And it's true. And the boards, and I was on a board, so I know, it's a thankless job. And most people some people do it for an agenda or power, but most people do it because they care about the town and nobody else steps up to the plate. But it's true that the town is run by those who show up, and that's really the meaning of our democracy. And I mean, I speak to neighbors, I tell them my issue, they agree with me, but they say out and out, but it's just not me. I don't attend town meetings, and I never will. So that's what we got to live with. Back to the solar farm petition. I read the Webster Times report. That was the only way I could get it, because like I said, I don't think it's online yet. And it brought some questions to mind. Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, Mary Sansucci was accused, she made an accusation that the overlay district equates to spot zoning, and that was disputed by town officials. The law may call it an overlay and a tool to allow its use, but it still equates to placing a parcel of land in a different use from that of the neighboring property. And I just wanted to make that point. Yeah, the law says, oh, you can do an overlay, and it's, it makes it lawful, but it's still disturbing that area. And Mr. Swayze was new to our town a number of years ago. He bought his land on Corbin Road because of where it was, and now he's facing a huge solar array for 7 months of the year. And I know that you're thinking of the budget. You're thinking, how do we keep our taxes low? How do we meet our mandated costs and our town services and please everybody? But also think about how people use their property rights and how it affects their neighbors. So that's something that came to my mind. And Mr. Breyer was quoted in the paper saying that when the solar or overlay district was proposed, the town cut and pasted different portions of the state laws and areas, and they boilerplated the language. But the problem is the language causes too many vulnerabilities to our town. I have the model from the Department of Solar Energy Systems and the Department of Energy Resources, and it talks all about the siting and not clear-cutting forests, not putting on land that can be used for agriculture. And then below that paragraph is the overlay district, but it means you can do the overlay as long as you're not clear-cutting forests. That's what they were going to do with the one below Partridge Hill, clear-cut forests. So we can't pick and choose what the model tells. We need to follow all the rules, and I think that's what Mr. Breyer was talking about, saying cut and pasting. And lastly, we were told, don't cry wolf, don't scare people about LLCs running away, don't speculate without knowing. But we don't know that there's a big difference between LLCs and corporations. LLCs take away a lot of the liability that a corporation, officers of a corporation have to hold, or the owner of a sole proprietorship. So there is a difference, and we know that. And most of the solar companies are LLCs, so it makes you wonder. And also, Mr. Joseph, you were quoted in the paper, and maybe it was misquoted, but you mentioned that it doesn't allow people who don't have enough solar energy on the rooftop. This doesn't allow for ground mounting, but that's not true.
I didn't say that.
Well, that was quoted in the paper.
I even read the article, I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
and, you know,
I don't
this
think
does
so.
not affect anybody who wants to put ground-mounted solar arrays in their yard for their own consumption. It's only when they're producing commercial.
I love the work you do in the research. You are,
This is my job for
no, you're good.
25 years.
You're really good at it. Unfortunately, I never mentioned ground.
Yeah, it was in the
Bear with me.
paper.
I read the article. I never mentioned ground solar array. What I said, the only time I stood up, well, the only time I went to the microphone was, I said that what if there's some people who need the income from a solar array where they want to put it on their property, and we're not going to allow them to do that. And that's the only statement I made. I never mentioned ground versus,
Yeah, well, I wish I
What do
had
you
the
know?
paper with me. I don't, then it said that if they don't have enough energy from the rooftops, we're not allowing it on
I
the
never
ground.
said that. And that,
Well, it
I don't
could
think
have
that
been
was in the
misquoted.
article.
It could have been misquoted, and I just wanted to clear it up that as far as private consumption, this bylaw has nothing to do
I'm
with
well
that.
aware of that.
You know, and I just want to Marcia's point, that solar overlay district, when it was approved, everything that gets approved at town meeting has to go to the Attorney General to be approved. So Marcia had something from Department of Energy stating, you know, conditions that they like not to be seen in order to allow it. That's all well and good, but that bylaw was approved by the Attorney General. It was submitted properly, voted properly, and was implemented once or twice before now it's been changed. And the second thing about Ramshorn, nobody ever called it a forest. As a matter of fact, most of the people that spoke against it went out of their way to say that that was, and I'm paraphrasing, but the gist was, good, valuable farmland. That could be farmland again. We're going to take farmland away. And when I asked at the town meeting if that was good, valuable farmland, I just wanted to know what was growing up there and what crop did they produce, because it wasn't. It was, a person had 40 acres, roughly. One piece was 40, 50-something total, right, the two parcels, and they wanted to use 20 of it in the middle. They weren't going to clear cut 50 acres, or 44, whatever it was. They were going to put it in the middle. So I understand the research, which Marcia is very detail-orientated, But
I'm good at it.
I want people that don't come to the meetings, people that don't participate, come to the regular meetings, don't participate in the process, and get up at town meeting and say something that's so, I'm not, blatantly untrue. I'm not gonna say anybody was not telling the truth, but things that are blatantly untrue that sway other people, it's just not fair. It's not fair to the residents that put the petition forward. It's not fair to town officials that give, like you say, we give our time. You gave your time. You're on the planning board, you know, that come to extra meetings, that host public hearings, and you look at an empty room, then you go to a town meeting, and it's almost like you're gonna defend what happened 2 months before in order to get to that point. It's just, as an official, it's just frustrating.
The first time we used it on Oxford Ave, most people thought because of that particular parcel, it had been industrial, it went to residential, it was going back into industrial, and it's right on Oxford Ave, coming in from Oxford. They thought that was a one-time thing. They didn't think that we were instituting overlay into the town again. That was the understanding of a lot of people. And it's a kind of a catch-22 word because it only stipulates that parcel for that bylaw. So it's a little confusing.
But the good thing, Marcia, two-part good thing. Again, we go back to the meeting and to attendance and people paying attention as the process is ongoing. If somebody came to the public hearing and said, is this a one-shot deal, or is this something we're opening up?
Right.
Would have handled, as the previous speaker said, if they had the information given to them, they'd be able to make a determination. To go back to that specific parcel you just mentioned, before I was on the planning board, that was zoned residential.
Right.
Town's master plan, which was John Breyer was part of, made that industrial land. The person that owned the property came to get some building permits. He wanted to build some houses, make it residential. The applicant came before us and wanted to know why I went industrial. We told him. By then I was on the planning board. So they took the 3 parcels, which eliminates spot zoning, and converted it back to residential use. Well, they only built 1 house.
Yeah.
And that same applicant who wanted to go back to residential now came back to the town and wanted industrial because they had a chance to make, as Mr. Joseph said, some money on their land and generate revenue for the town and for themselves. So the overlay district benefited that person, will benefit the town in the long run, and hopefully it won't be offensive to people when they drive by, because, again, it went to the town meeting to be approved, and I'm sure if we looked up the records, there might have been 60 people there that night, and as you said, you show up, you run the town. So every little piece got some history. Like that night, we talked in general terms about Shepherd Hill, and somebody who lived in town, he's not here anymore, said, I can't remember them farming, and somebody else got up and said, I can. Well, I've been here 30 years, I don't remember it being farmed, and my point was, if we were gonna save all the farms, where would you put Shepherd Hill? Because wasn't that a farm at one time?
Yes, it was.
So,
Let me, if I may, well said, Sully. And the case that you just mentioned was a case in point when I made the statement at town meeting about some people may want to supplement or even survive by working out a solar array with a company. We have, and I said this candidates night, 2 things. One is that we have 4,005 acres in Dudley that is protected under 61, 61A, and
APR.
61B. 61 is forestry. 61B is recreation, like the rail trail. And then that leaves 61A. Of that 4,005 acres protected under 61A, agricultural, 3,584 acres are preserved for agricultural purposes. So our goal is never, ever to destroy that, but it's not our choice, it's up to the landowners. And landowners always have that right to do what they want with their land within reason, and something that does not dramatically or substantially impinge or infringe on abutters. The second thing I want to say is, you know, the fact that 61 or 58 people could decide major issues like that, that is both the greatest strength and the greatest weakness of a democracy. It is what it is, it's what we live by. And as far as people not coming and doing things, whether it's volunteering for various boards or committees, or even taking the time to come to a town meeting on a regular basis and participate and voice their concern, support, or against. I said it to candidates tonight, all right, you're not gonna find the time. There will be a million excuses why you can't find the time. You have to make the time. And that's what we struggle with, you know? As Gail said, she missed that by, it was the only one she's missed. She comes, she takes the time, she's here tonight, all right? And I'm not being patronizing. Everybody who's here tonight, with the exception of a few that have to be here, you folks have taken the time, you've made the time. We just need more people to do that. We really do.
Well, what you're mentioning about the APR land, that's something else that I was going to address. Dudley's history is that of a farm town with several areas for manufacturing, like Stevens Linen was. In the 60s, the state introduced the APR program, which most of Dudley, like you mentioned, the acreage, they instituted introduced that program to discourage land sales for the purpose of urban sprawl land development by offering these huge tax breaks. Now, a couple generations have enjoyed that tax break, and the land's all gone fallow. Recently, the state is trying to encourage people to re-farm. I went to the Commissioner of Agriculture addressed the town at the library a couple of years ago, trying to people to get back into farming. But after it being dormant that long, buying machinery and equipment, the cost of it makes it prohibited. So it's a terrible catch-22 we're in, and a lot of it is federal and state induced.
I know we're off the topic. I apologize for helping to get us there.
No, you know, and I've always, people know, I've always said I'd rather have 5,000 people show up and vote than 50 and win.
Yep.
It's democracy, it's the greatest system in the world. It's been around for, what, 260-something years? Hopefully another 260.
Thanks, Marcia.
Thanks, Marcia. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail.
Anybody else wishing to be heard that's not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none. Town Administrator Report, the inaugural Town Administrator Report, I refer to Mr. Ruda.
Mr. Chairman, the ink is barely dry on this report, so bear with me, please.
Good, though.
So I've spent the last week and my entire day today working on the transition. I had the opportunity to meet with the fire chief, the police chief, the highway superintendent. Michelle and I sat down for probably about an hour, and I met with the accountant. So here are some items of note. I don't know if everybody's found it, but it's in your it's in your folder. Couple of things to bring to your attention. The first thing is our recycling contract. According to the highway superintendent, we are being billed almost, for some materials, almost twice the amount that's specified through our contract with Casella. And the contract itself actually calls for such an occurrence to be renegotiated, which they failed to do. So tomorrow I'll make the call to Casella and tell them that we expect them to honor the agreement that they signed. And I would also suggest that we consider going out to bid, because we're just about up.
Would you say that last part again, please?
I'm going to call Casella tomorrow and tell them that we expect them to honor the contract that they signed.
And the contract expires when?
I believe it's up this year, July 1st.
1 more year. Yeah, rest of this year and 1 more year.
1 more year, okay.
So expiration date approximately?
This
Is it the?
This coming
Fiscal
fiscal year is the final fiscal year of the contract.
Vinnie,
It's, we're 2 years into a three-year contract right
So we're, see, May, June, July.
probably.
So we got
June
about
30th.
14 months left
now. Correct,
on the existing contract,
correct.
and you're gonna hold them to it?
We're gonna hold them to it. I gotta double check that contract. We may be actually, we may actually be able to just go out to bid if we want to prior to the end of that contract, but I need to double check that.
Okay. Okay, you're,
Question for Vinnie. You're okay if we somehow did that and switching to a different vendor? If it came to that?
We don't have to award a bid if we go for a rebid. We don't have to award it, but what it'll give us is a lot of information of what the competitive prices are, to see if we're being taken advantage of or not. The only thing I was gonna state tonight, that the new dump stickers will be going on sale the first 3 Saturdays of July in the morning. And as of right now, the price is not gonna change, but I wish this came to a head prior to committing recycling center sticker prices, because we might be in trouble.
I want to be sure I understand what's going on. We have a contract with Casella for 14 more months.
13.
They are invoicing us for more than what was contracted for.
Correct.
Have we paid any invoices that have exceeded the contract price?
So according to the accountant, I checked on that, we've paid up till March. She's finding out, because it happened today, I don't have the complete information for you, but she's going to find out what the change in price was and if we paid any of those bills. But we haven't paid since March because of this issue. I just found out about it today.
So are they still invoicing us for a price greater than what was contracted?
I'm gonna find that out. I didn't
And-
have that information today.
Okay, can we find out how far back?
We definitely can.
Because if they've gone past, we're gonna tell them they owe us money. If
Without,
they've invoiced us without the contractually required renegotiation.
I think, I don't know for certain, but it seems to me that after piecing this together, that Greg may have said, hold off on paying anything else and begun, and tried to reach out directly to Casella, but I don't think it went anywhere. So but I don't know for certain the answer to your question, I'll find out. But it seems like we may have stopped paying based on his direction to stop paying, and that he was gonna reach out to Casella.
So would you ask them nicely, who the hell do they think they are, increasing our price beyond a contracted price without following the contract and renegotiating?
I think you just did.
Okay.
You know, I did talk to the acting superintendent about a month or so ago, and he told me about this issue. And I asked him, it was on a Friday, I think we talked, and he was gonna meet with Greg on a Monday. And I spoke to Greg, and Greg indicated what Jonathan kinda laid out. He was gonna approach Casella and find out why they arbitrarily increased. I'm not a contract lawyer by any stretch, but I believe the interpretation was, as he presented, Vinnie presented, that it's supposed to be subject to a negotiation. And I don't
We didn't respond, so they just kind of went.
I don't know if we didn't respond, well, yeah, to their price increase. I don't know, like Jonathan, Mr. Ruda just stated, I don't know how much further Greg went with that. Did he speak to our account rep or whatever the term, maybe using the wrong term? But this is an issue that Vinnie has caught and was on the front burner for a good 6 to 8 weeks before leading up to even tonight. So I think the issue you stated, what gives them the right to arbitrarily raise it, I think Mr. Root is also correct. We need to find out what the contract actually states. And does renegotiate mean they can raise it pending negotiation? I would think, but we need to find out.
We'll find out.
Language. Yes, bless you.
We'll have it squared away this week.
Thank you.
Yeah, I talked to the town accountant this afternoon, and she told me to get in contact with Casella tomorrow and find out exactly what we own.
Find out what?
Exactly what we own to this date, what's been paid and what's not been paid.
Well, that might not be the case. But here's my question. Do you, Jonathan, do you want to have him do that? Have Vinnie do it?
We'll both
You want to do
do
it
it.
on a conference call?
We'll both do it. I talked to Vinnie today,
Okay.
and we'll double team that.
Okay.
That's the right thing.
Thanks, Vinnie.
Thanks, man.
Next.
Next. Okay, the beach. We're getting geared up to get the beach up and running within the next, what's our normal open date, right at 4th?
July 3rd.
July 3rd? Okay. So, I met with the police chief, the fire chief, and the highway superintendent today about the beach. I'm gonna delegate the hiring of the lifeguard and the supervision of the lifeguard to the fire chief and the fire department. It's an EMS/rescue function, so it's more appropriately placed there. We met, the 3 department heads met specifically about the beach today, individually. Police chief is gonna maintain the same security posture that we had last year, and Vinnie's already working on putting the signage up, and we're going to determine the status of the beach house, right? The bathhouse from last year.
Mr. Chair, are we going to, I certainly trust the fire chief 100%. Are we going to avail, like I think we did previously, we always let the personnel board kind of handle the application process, then bring the names forward and then let it fall under the fire? I don't think we want the fire chief interviewing lifeguards. You want the whole thing? Let the fire chief handle it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea,
Thank you,
Mr.
Chief.
Chairman.
Yeah.
I also, you know, the lifeguard will have to go for a physical and that sort of thing, so
Right.
at some point, we'll go through the regular, normal hiring
Okay.
process.
Let the fire and EMS handle it. Vinnie?
After we talked today, the beach does need to be refreshed with some fresh sand. The highway department will be bringing probably 4 or 5 truckloads up there this week, the end of the week, and refresh the beach.
Okay?
Excellent. John Massey?
I know we haven't had a ton of great weather, but have we had people already there, like, how's it been, like, from a people adhering standpoint? Like messes, or?
I didn't get a report on the inside of the building yet. I'll get that tomorrow morning, whether there's any issues inside the building.
But what about the trash outside?
It's been maintained pretty
Okay.
much.
All right.
I think we usually, we weatherize that bathhouse,
Yes.
so it could be in a state of disarray.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not turned on yet.
Remember any
Chief,
way.
no,
So you haven't had a real streak of warm weather just yet, but when that hits, it'll be fine.
And one thing on your radar screens, we may consider, and Chief Wayner brought it up today, is do we want to set a absolute closing time different from when the lifeguard's on duty? So if the lifeguard is off duty at a certain time, say 4 o'clock, are we leaving the beach opened until 6, or are we leaving it open until dusk, so that he knows to tell his department when to start enforcement?
Well, I think, speaking myself, I think it's worked well the last few years with the improved visibility. We have signage restricting access. And I would just be hesitant to tell a person that works 8 to 5, you know, in the city, comes home, wants to go take a dip, and it's 6:05 or 6:10, and I'm not saying the police don't use discretion, but if we go to a hard close time of 6, and someone doesn't get in there until 6:05, and it's, you know, perfectly, we're not talking about a carload of teenagers with a cooler of beer, you know?
No, but that's the issue, Mr. Chairman, is that you can't be selective with that type of thing. So if you're gonna set a time, if it's 6 o'clock, it was 6 o'clock. I think it didn't make much sense to have it at 6 when the sun was setting at, again, 8:45 at sometime in July. So if you wanna make it at dusk, or if we wanna make it at a certain time, if we wanna make it 8:30 or whatever it is,
it's a standard.
whatever you wanna do, that's what we're gonna stick with. And
It's been
that's
dust the last couple of years,
just
right?
we had it. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so I think
So we
right
could
now,
probably say, we could probably say at sundown or whatever it is, that way we can go by the time of the day or kind
Right.
of thing, or whatever it is.
I think that if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Dusk works.
Definite time. What's dusk? Dusk for one person may not be dusk to another. Have a definite time set, period.
And just post whatever it is you decide, you can post it.
Oh, we're not gonna vote on that tonight, right?
We'll put it on for next meeting.
Mr. Massey?
Jonathan, what about like enhanced security down there? We talked at one point about maybe down the road having cameras and things like that, just so people, the chief can have eyes on it, just in case something's happening.
I don't think we're in a position to do that for this year,
Okay.
unfortunately, but I think we can probably look at something like that for next year.
I mean, just for safety.
Yeah.
You're gonna provide walkie-talkies to the lifeguards?
Yes, that's,
They have all that, right?
yeah.
That's standard.
Okay.
They have that.
Streetlights?
Okay, the streetlight project. So the streetlight project is scheduled to begin, so the people handling this, the firm handling the streetlights is Tanco. The people who Tanco subs to is Cavello Construction. They're handling the installation of the streetlights. And I believe their supplies, their materials have been piled up at the highway department over the past month or so, and
Yeah, we had several shipments of different products, the lights, different wattage bulbs, and matter of fact, I spoke with him Friday, and he'll be here this week they're gonna bring a dumpster in, and he wants to go over all the inventory.
okay. So that was the next thing I was gonna say. But anyway, so they're gonna begin work, as far as I know, next week.
I think he said they were coming in this week.
Okay, even better.
Let's go.
They're going
I
to
don't-
provide,
I don't know if there's any details. Hired yet, any details?
and they're gonna provide us with maps to say when and where they're gonna be doing the installation, what parts of town, the dates, the times, so that we can coordinate with all three departments and let the public
Chairman?
know when that's gonna happen.
I would just ask, when they do provide that schedule, that we somehow get it on the website,
Yep,
social media, so that way people don't have to worry about who's showing up in their neighborhood at 7 in the morning to do work.
that's gonna all be detail work, chief?
It's gonna be-
Not all, but it's one of the things we want to coordinate with them to try to determine where they're going to be and try to make most efficient use of it so that we're not wasting money on that.
Okay.
So I'd like to talk to the person who's running the project to kind of coordinate where they're going to be, and we can work it out from there.
And to that point, social media, I was gonna say the same, social media and the signboards, people driving by. But, do we have a prioritized list, chief, of where we would wanna start to give them a sort of a push?
No, I think it's up to them, but I'm just looking at the streets themselves on, as far as what we need for police coverage. Like, for example, if it's a dead-end street, they're probably okay to be on their own with it.
Yeah.
They're running right down Main Street, they're gonna need some assistance with that. So I just wanna find out where they're working and try to see how they're gonna coordinate it.
Oh, so they're gonna
The best
decide where to
use of
start
the-
first? Is that
Best
how-
use
that-
of it. I haven't heard where they're gonna start, what they're gonna do. Haven't
We'll
heard.
coordinate it.
All right,
and
just
I'll
curious
make
if
sure
there
the
was a-
board knows what's going on.
Like this area would be done first versus that one, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, chief.
Let's go to dropping the puck soon. We're down to 57 people in about 2 minutes.
So as a factor of, Mr. Chairman, a factor of my meetings today, there's a lot of end-of-year transfers that go on, nothing different from every year in the past. There's nothing earth-shattering right now. If there's an amount that really becomes concerning, I'll let the board know, but for now, I would anticipate the normal surplus moving to underage-type transfers that we do every year.
Excellent. Next.
Next, I'm going to get my evaluation. I need to get the planning stage done and on the next meeting agenda. What I'll do is I'll draft it, and I thought I could send it out to I'll email it out to each individual member of the board for their comments and input, so that maybe by the time the next meeting rolls around, we could firm up those goals and objectives for that stage of the evaluation. I'll give you 2 weeks to look at it and chew on it.
Paul?
Okay.
John?
Yeah,
Good.
that's great.
Thank you. Next.
And the final one is item 10B on tonight's agenda, which is the solar pilot agreement. The crux of that matter is that the Nexamp Dudley Solar LLC is asking to amend their pilot agreement with the town because they're not generating the amount of energy that they thought they were going to generate. My suggestion is that we put that off. I've already given that to legal counsel to take a look at our end of the contract and what and what our responsibilities to them are and vice versa. So I would suggest we take no action on that tonight.
And that's her recommendation.
That's her recommendation, her email's in your packet.
Okay, I just read that.
Yeah, absolutely. We follow KP Law's recommendation. Just,
So they have, Mr. Chairman, so they have a signed agreement where they said they would pay us a certain amount and generate a certain amount. So now that they're not generating it, they want to redo the contract? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's
And
not
we-
a huge amount.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount, and then,
Or is it to better reflect reality, and that's normal in the course of these arrays?
well, I think the good thing is KP's got some experience in that.
yeah.
We talked a little bit with Michelle after that last town meeting about several issues,
Mhm.
and I know solar was one of them, so
Okay.
they can give us some guidance.
Yeah.
So is it by consent that we are tabling that item?
When it comes up, yeah,
Okay, so that'll automatically be on the next agenda now.
pending further information, and if we don't have it, we'll just table it.
Okay.
Well, I just want to thank the town administrator. I spoke to him at about 3 o'clock, and he was completing his department head meetings, and we all know how I feel about town administrator reports, and he told me he wasn't sure, but I think for a first meeting, first day, it's a pretty comprehensive report. and
Good
Mr.
report.
Chairman, how do you feel about town administrator reports?
I
Let's
like
re-
him.
okay,
I
all
think, I said it to Greg, I said, I don't think any meeting should go by where the town administrator does not have a report.
In writing.
You're not gonna tell me nothing went on for 2 weeks that we and the people don't need to know about, not you, generic term. I like him.
Yep.
I like him from all departments. I think all 4 departments represented here tonight do a great job getting their information out. But everyone watches us, not everyone, but I like him. Let's leave it at that. Good report, Mr. Administrator.
Good job, John.
Around town, local businesses, we have none, but we are going to continually attempt to ramp up that focus. I think people enjoy it. We brought some real good attention in the last
I've got a
2
couple
years.
people lined up, I just gotta work out dates
Yeah, and
with Michelle.
Mr. Joseph was the driving force behind the creation of that, and we have really brought forward some excellent small businesses in town. License and permit, St. Andrew Babola, request for an all alcohol one-day liquor license for Friday, August 23rd, 2019, 4:30 to 10, Saturday,
David's here.
August 24th, 2019, from 1 to 10, located 54 West Main for the Summer Festival. So this does not require us to have a public hearing, right? It's just a one-day, right? We do them all the time, pro forma.
Okay. So
David.
moved.
Second.
This is going to be the easiest vote ever.
Okay, good, no questions, I like it.
Wait, we haven't voted yet.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, and as always, we encourage the public to attend and help St.,
And drink responsibly.
drink responsibly, but to encourage and attend and help St. Andrews raise some funds for the next year.
You all set on that one, Chief?
Yes, just the one thing I mentioned to Mr. Bogarski is just that they hire the details for the hours that they have the alcohol going on at the festival, and I believe they are going to do that now, so.
All right.
Fire and EMS, you guys don't, you usually staff that or no? No? Okay. So just coordinate with the chief?
Yes, so we do have plans for the police detail for all hours of alcohol service, so I can commit to that, yes. Jay.
Okay, now,
That's in the
it's-
works.
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we generally do a vote to allow overflow parking in the town hall parking lot. Would you like us to address that tonight?
Sure.
Did we?
When did we vote that?
Yeah.
Months ago.
Yeah, we did that
Really?
already.
See that?
Nancy Bacall
Yeah.
brought it up.
Yeah. Nancy.
Oh, that's
I
right.
remember- I remember
Okay,
that.
I take it back. Just,
You don't wanna do it now?
Want to reaffirm it?
No, we already did.
They said we already did it.
When?
I don't know.
A few months ago, Nancy
Months
Vacone.
ago.
I
Remember when
don't
Nancy
recall
was here?
that.
I can look it
That's
up.
fine.
For their parish festival, we gave them overflow parking, but they didn't request an alcohol license at the same time? Shame on you. Okay, I guess we did.
Let's put it this way, if Michelle said we did, I'm pretty sure we did.
Yep.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, good to see you.
We'll see you in a month or two. Next up, tentative meeting schedule of July 1st, 2019, July 15th, July 29th, August 12th, August 26th, September 9th, September 23rd, October 7th, October 21st, October 28th, November 4th, November 18th, December 2nd, December 16th, December 30th, with the September 9th meeting, our annual Black Tavern. October 28th will be our 6 PM meeting prior to the town meeting at Shepherd Hill. And since I always lose anyway, I'm not going to make a motion to go back to weekly meetings.
I'll move that we approve the schedule as printed,
Second.
as you just read, and as printed on the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, and to people out there, again, information is critical. Those that show vote, control, those are subject to change. We can always add meetings, subtract meetings. So please refer to the town's website or the town administrator selectman's office. All in favor, state aye.
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 Unanimous. 10B, we will pass over to the next meeting, waiting on further information and further advice from legal. C, set new compensation amount regarding Board of Selectmen Secretary.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Administrator.
I had a chance to sit with Michelle today. There's a email or memo in your packet from Mr. Valiakonis. Okay, so what I'd like to do is ask if the board would allow me to carry this to the next meeting and give me a chance to take a look at the job description and work with Michelle and the personnel board and come up with a more appropriate recommendation, which is not to say that the amount is not appropriate, but that's all we have is an amount. We don't have a new job description.
Right,
We don't have anything that should accompany it, so.
right.
And I sat with Michelle, and she's 100% on board.
Right, I mean, there was some discussion as to, ongoing discussions as to the
That's
fact
an
that,
informational item.
right, but I'm just gonna say for the, Michelle's job has changed and evolved greatly through the years, and certainly long overdue that we update the job description, and I wholeheartedly agree with the administrator, we table it to the next meeting. Next up, fall town meeting date, we vote to approve Monday, April 28, 2019, at 7 o'clock for the town meeting at Shepherd Hill, and if necessary, we will go to Tuesday, October 30th.
Wait, that's not
Can't be
right.
right, yeah, it's gotta be Wednesday, or Tuesday,
Monday,
October.
Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday?
Scrivener,
Oh.
29th?
29th, I apologize.
Scrivener error
29th?
Scrivener's error, sorry.
to the 29th, 2019, 7 PM.
The 28th.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made
Wait a
to
minute,
accept
Paul,
the
thank you.
proposed
I'll
dates.
second it.
Is that the week we
Seconded.
usually do? Do we usually do the week before that, or? Is it
To
always that
clarify-
last week, Halloween week, or is it the week before?
It's set by bylaw, isn't it?
It's Halloween week.
It could be.
Halloween week. Is it really
It's a thing.
a week?
The meeting is Monday, the
history long.
28th of October, and if need be, to go longer,
Yes, if
Tuesday, the 29th.
the business is not concluded on the 28th.
Right, if it's not.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Permission to close the Dudley Municipal Complex in the library 4 PM on Thursday, June 20, 2019, so employees may attend the Strawberry Festival.
It's hiding.
So moved.
Second.
And again, the caveat always, not everybody goes to the Strawberry Festival, so if the person wants to stay and work, they can stay and work. Motion made and seconded without
Who made that?
Strawberry Festival, 1, 2.
Oh, thank you.
But no attendance passed at the Strawberry Festival to ensure those that have benefited from this vote actually show up. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Administrator.
I'd recommend for next year that, with the board's permission, you'd let me take a look at the opening and closing the hours of the town hall. And
Absolutely,
we take this into consideration instead of having it come up for vote.
absolutely. You know what?
That and things like when we do the Christmas
Christmas festival. yeah.
Correct.
festival for the kids and so forth, we should just take that into consideration, pre-schedule it, and set it, and
Here's my feeling on that. with Jonathan and board members. We have full-time people, town administrator, full-time department heads. The less we have to get involved in their day-to-day operation, the better the town will be. But obviously, as the executive body, we do have to take some action. So let the administrator do his diligence, come up with a policy, and we'll take it under advisement and vote when time is appropriate.
Okay.
Or even just an annual schedule for town
Correct.
hall.
Perfect. Board member comments, Mr. Joseph.
I'm gonna miss Bailey. He's been a real good student selectman. His reports have been real good. The only problem is we don't get notified of choral concerts, so we can get tickets ahead of time. He tells us a couple days ahead. But outside of that, wish you well. And people know this, but to remind them, very unusual, but he was accepted into the nursing program, first try, at Worcester State, and they have a 8 or 9 years in a row, 100% passing of the nursing exam in the state on the first try. So it's very sought after, and hopefully I won't see you as a professional.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. I like to echo that too. Bailey's been, all our student reps through the years have their own quirks and their fun thing, but Bailey is really, he sat there, he takes the ribbing, he takes the questions, he takes everything, he gives a little bit back, but he's a well-spoken, respectful young man. I happened to be at graduation yesterday for personal reasons. My daughter graduated with Bailey, and we made a joke when Bailey came in his robe. We said it tonight about the scholarships he had to hide on his inside pocket. I'm not exactly sure how many times Mr. Bowes was recognized. I want to say it was at least 4, maybe 5. Could ask his parents, they were there. He won't answer, but he got up several times. He got up several times. He was an excellent representative of the school. And as a side, Mr. Joseph, not only was Bailey accepted, I think 2 or 3 others of your classmates are also going. 3 other ones, which is
Nursing?
at Worcester State, which is,
That's what you call a healthy pipeline.
which is a reflection upon the education that these students get at Shepherd Hill. So
That's really good.
on behalf of our board, Mr. Marcy's going to speak, obviously, but on behalf of our board, it's been fun having Bailey here. You were a vital cog for us, giving us information towards the school, and as I said, we like to give you a ribbing, tease you a little bit about your hair and everything, but I'm just jealous. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
You are really jealous.
And as an aside, I'd like to just take a little pump of the back slap here and congratulate my daughter Rachel. She also graduated with Bailey yesterday, and Shepherd Hill did a nice job at the DCU, but not to wish nothing but the best for all 283 or 7 they announced. 278, but
89 when I graduated.
especially Mr. Bowes and my daughter Rachel. We wish you guys nothing but the best.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Massey, if I stole any thunder.
No, well, maybe a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, Bailey, it was fun having you here. I mean, I've watched you grow from this big, to being taller than me, which is hard to do.
Probably started in second grade, you're probably bigger than
Yeah,
him,
it's
but-
from Cub Scouts and, all the volunteering you did with your parents and who raised you right. And, you have a lot of fans up here and in the community who are rooting for you to do well. So it was fun having you up here with us and happened to sit next to Mr. Joseph and deal with his ribbing, right? So.
I'm gonna genuinely miss you.
I will too.
So it's a good job, Bill. It was a joke,
No, I know.
You've slept in that thing since.
And Bailey, all we ask you to tell us when you complete the Pan Mass Challenge, come back, give us a little report. Your dad's riding for what? You're in double figures now. No, I'm saying no. 8th time, so
8.
just let us know how you guys made out, and it's always nice to hear. It's a good event, but good for you folks.
Yep. And
Mr. Massey.
so thanks, Bill. And a couple other things. I was gonna say congratulations to all of our graduates, and Marsha's saying hi. But I also wanted to say on Monday, huh? No, I said Marsha has something. The last thing I had to add was, next Monday is June 10th, which is our town election, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell everybody to get out there and to vote. I think one of the common themes tonight was, those who show up, control things, and we hope that we have a strong turnout in supporting your candidates, so.
And I'm going to echo Mr. Massey. I was going to say that. I'm going to set the bar low. I'm going to challenge my fellow residents of the town of Dudley to exceed last year's election where we had 301. Can we at least have 302? Let's try to improve every year. And I hope nobody takes offense at that, because I know people have lives to lead, but they have absentee ballots, early voting, all-day voting. I would hope and pray that we can get a substantial turnout. Win, lose, or draw. Everybody that can come, please come.
Well, Mr. Bose just turned 18 this past week,
Did
so.
you register?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Oh, you're gonna
Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense.
You're gonna take a picture? You're gonna take a picture of your ballot? Sorry, Masha.
I was at the graduation too, and I just wanted to mention that 10 students are joining the military.
Yes.
And there was standing applause, and 5 young women are joining the Marines.
Wow.
That just blew me away.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, Masha,
Thanks, Masha.
I don't know if you noticed, one of the girls, young ladies received a diploma yesterday, was hugged by her sister, who was an active duty Marine, who I believe
Yes.
surprised not only her sister, but also her mother with her appearance. So you see him on the news, and I hope somebody got a good video of that, because the young lady, she came around, her sister came from the right in full uniform, and if you could have seen the look of joy on this young lady's face. She's actually an employee at Parking Shop, so if you shop there,
Wow.
you see Rosa, you should tell her she did a nice job. She kept it together as best she could, but I'm telling you, you see it on TV, but when you see it in person, an active duty person who comes home and surprises a family member, it lets you really dig down deep and understand the sacrifices the military makes. It was quite a moving moment.
That's America.
Yep.
Thanks,
Departmental
Masha.
Communications, Highway, you have enough to say tonight? Dean? Fire and EMS, and Lifeguard, Director of Beaches.
The beach,
I was asked
the
to
beach
bring it
czar,
up by,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I met the administrator today, and we had a major breakdown of Ambulance 1, which is gonna be right around $3,000 to replace, so I'm gonna be requesting emergency money from the
What happened?
FAA reserve account, is that correct? Because we're so close to the end of the year and the money's not in the budget anymore. It had something to do with the antifreeze. They had to strip the whole motor down. It wasn't the head gasket, but it was something similar to that. And the truck's 10 years old.
Right. Now, you run your department well, but just keep the administrator in the loop, you always do. Mr. Joseph?
The 3 signs over the existing old station doors for the various vehicles that are stored there, are those going to be moved over the what are you going to do with them?
Probably get new ones.
What are you going to do with the old ones?
I don't know, we'll probably put them in the lobby or something, just we could put.
Yeah, don't throw them out, because they've been up there for quite a while.
Don't worry, they're not getting thrown out.
Okay.
Oh.
We don't want to go down somebody's road someday and see them on somebody's.
We saved, we saved quite a few things. We're gonna incorporate it somehow into the new station, whether it's in a display case or something
nice.
like that.
Okay.
Very nice. Actually, maybe Bay Path can build you one, maybe somebody will do a project, the Eagle Scouts who just left tonight, maybe someone can make her a nice display case.
You know any Eagle Scouts?
He just left.
All right.
One did,
don't
one
want
here.
one. You don't care
Thank you,
anymore.
Dean.
Police,
He's already done his.
good?
Yeah.
George, water sewer?
Hey, George?
Just a quick update. We're trying to finish up our hydrant flushing program. I know a lot of people are still waiting. Some of their water's getting a little dirty, but we're doing the best we can. We've had a lot of infrastructure issues we've had to address. So I think the areas left now are Mason Road on the bottom side, Airport Road area, Alton Drive area, and the upper West Main Street, D'Alessandro, Dudley Hill area. And that's it. The other thing is you're going to be seeing some machinery start coming into town. Probably next week, they're gonna start doing the well testing for Station 3 for the rehab, and for
Schofield
Station
Ave,
1.
George?
What's that?
Schofield Ave?
Yeah.
Schofield
Yes,
Ave.
yeah.
For the well testing to see if we can hit an aquifer to rejuvenate that station. And they're gonna be doing the well testing, I think first, I'm gonna have them do main station first, only because we're gonna look for some funding for that
Right.
project. Hopefully, they can get some yield up there and luck out with a third water source back in operation. But like I said, it's a shot in the dark, but everybody feels it's the best shot, so we're gonna try it.
But the good thing is you don't
Good.
take a shot, you don't hit the target.
Only can do what we can do.
George, quick question. I had somebody call, ask me about radio readers. How far are you guys into your changeover? Like you at like 50%, 90%?
Right
60?
now, I give us a more like 65, 70%, but there's also the factor that the ones we put in back 10 years ago, the batteries run out, so we have to go back and change those over. But the new system's coming online now. There's a lot of stuff to it, a lot of software. The guys are doing a great job trying to sort that all out. There's still a lot going on there, and they're also still following through with all the accounts to see where there's some problems and some issues, and I won't get into the issues, but
Right,
where we got to pick up we're losing revenue, so now we're able to master that and go after that.
Well, that was the question. If they want to go to, if they have the old style and they want to go to radio, it's just a process. They call you?
Call us, call the office, set up an appointment, the guys will be more than happy to come out and do it.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Good.
George. Everybody good?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Joseph,
I
please
move
do.
we adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
One last farewell to Mr. Bose. Don't be a stranger. Come back. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to vote,
We
please.
voted to adjourn, right?
Yep, motion was unanimous.
Amen.
Amen.
One more
Amen.
time, Bill.
Amen.